Virtual workspaces. What makes Linux and working in Linux pretty darn awesome? So awesome indeed that Microsoft has copied this feature and incorporated it into Windows. They call it virtual workspaces, but depending on what distribution you're on or desktop environment you're on, it may be called something different in Linux. So if you're on GNOME, know that it's still called Workspaces. If it's on KDE, it's called Virtual Desktops, and XFC also calls it Workspaces. But all these are the same thing, and that's what we're going over in this video because it makes you so much more productive by using it. As a long-term Windows user, I have a difficult time incorporating these new things in my workflow, but I'm getting the hang of it, and I gotta say, this has made me so much more productive. Okay, so this is my desktop, and you'll notice a couple of different things from the normal KDE desktop. Namely, down here, there's these two little window things, and if you flip, you'll notice they're different workspaces. So if I have something up here, and I flip over here, I will also have something over here. So I can have essentially like a dual monitor, but simply with just a click down in the button, or I can just use hotkeys to flip basically back and forth. Sorry, I don't want to make you dizzy, but let's go over how I got here, how we actually did that. So the simple part of it is to go into system settings. Now, this is KDE's desktop environment. If you're on GNOME, this is actually set up by default, and you already have the hotkeys. You just need to learn them. And I'll put in the description below some helpful links so you can use Workspaces on GNOME or XFCE. It's all pretty much out of the box, but I highly recommend coming into your system settings, no matter what desktop environment you're on, setting up your Workspaces, and then really understanding and setting up your actual hotkeys because it's super important. So with that, let's first go into where Workspaces are and how to enable them. So if we go to Workspace Desktop Behavior, now I'm on Plasma, which is KDE 5. So we'll click Desktop Behavior, come down to Virtual Desktops. This right here is where we go. By default, there's only one in here. We add one. So this is actually our secondary desktop. Second desktop. And you can add 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be to suit your needs if you become more of a power user. Starting off though, I highly recommend just 2 because think of it as like 2 monitors. The more monitors you add doesn't necessarily make you more productive if you don't properly utilize them, but start off with 1 and 2, get used to it, and you're like, okay, I want a third one. You can always come back in here, click add and choose a third one. So, but by default, there's only 1. So we just click add another one, and then off we go. Now you'll notice this little effect, this slide animation. I don't particularly like this. This by default is pretty much set across the board. I like to uncheck that. And then when I click, it's just instant. There is no slide effect because I mean, it's neat looking, but I'm more of a practical kind of guy. So once we've established that, well, now we want to take stuff from this one and be able to freely move between our workspaces or virtual desktops in this instance. So with that, we need to set our shortcut keys. So we'll go to Shortcuts, and then under Global Shortcuts, there's something called KWin. This is our window manager, how windows move around in the operating system and where all our settings are. So if we scroll down here, you'll notice there's the desktop shortcuts, which is Control F1 for this one, Control F2 for this one. So pretty cool. I like this. And then as you add more desktops, if I added more than 4, I would need to add more hotkeys to represent those desktops, or just have like, hey, show the desktop grid, Control F8, and it would show all of them. So if you had like 8 or something, or 10 or something crazy, you probably would be using the grid feature a lot more. But for here, I'm not going to use the grid feature, but if I do want to, it's Control F8 to see all of them at once. And then really the other thing I really like to set is pushing windows between these virtual desktops or workspaces. So the big thing here is window to desktop 1 and window to desktop 2. So let's set a hotkey here. I'm going to do a meta key, which is technically my Windows key, and then 1. So meta 1 was actually set to activate task entry 1. I'm going to go ahead and re-sign that because this is something I will use more. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So now we have desktop 1 and 2 set. So we'll hit apply to this. So that's kind of cool. So let's say you have this window, you're doing stuff with it, and you're like, you know what? Just push it over to my next desktop. I got to do something else. You just hit that meta 2 key, and then, well, it's over on the other desktop. So if we flip over, there it is. Cool. But we want to go back. This is extremely powerful. And honestly, once you get good at it, it's better than dual monitors because you have that focus thing. And really where I absolutely love this is gaming. Now, with Windows, when you lose focus on a window, all kinds of shenanigans usually happen. You have errors and things. Oh, is it full screen? Is it borderless full screen? You have all these different issues with Windows. But in Linux, it's just so much simpler. So let me just showcase this. I'm going to go into Lutris, and let's go ahead and launch into, we'll say Minecraft, or actually World of Warcraft. Sure, why not? It's the hot thing right now. We'll simply hit play. It'll launch into our World of Warcraft instance. And we'll select my server. You guys are going to see my name here, which is totally fine. Silent J. My buddy on here is named Bob. As you can see, if you group together, it could be fun. But anyways, so you're in game here. You're playing around. You got everything. You're like, okay, sweet. Oh, crap. You know what? I don't know where this quest is or whatever it might be. You just go, boom. All right, we're over here. What's that quest? And then you look it up. You find everything you have. And then you're like, all right, cool. Back to game. Without missing a beat. There's no minimizing, Alt-Tab, all that junk you have. You just have your workspace. So just using those hotkeys, just the simplistic things like this, really are game changers. And this was created in Linux. It's always been a giant Linux feature. I just recently found out about it. And honestly, Microsoft has been working to incorporate it in Windows and probably have done a kind of job doing it. But Linux has been doing it for, I think, more than a decade. So kind of amazing as far as the workspaces, and something that Microsoft's trying to take and basically put in their operating system to add that feature to Windows. However, for Linux, this is it. And it is incredible. I highly recommend trying it out. Get used to using this, and then you're ready for the next level, because you can go above and beyond this, way past what we just kind of detailed here. So very neat. I absolutely love this, and we're going to just go ahead and exit here, but I wanted to showcase it today. So there you have it. That is Workspaces in Linux, or virtual desktops if you're on KDE like I showed in this video, but they all work the same. Those hotkeys can be all changed around to your preferences and needs. This is a really good introductory thing for really increasing your productivity. Now, the next step in evolution, Linux has just such a vast array of things. So if you're even a more technical user than what I've presented here, and you want more control and more workspaces and more just everything, there's something called tiling window managers, which is pretty darn awesome and amazing, and why so many veteran users use it. However, this is something you need to master before you step into that realm. If you can't get workspaces, tiling window managers, and that type of thing is probably not for you. So learn the workspaces, learn that workflow, get used to using them, and then step into some tiling window managers, which I'm going to go over in a future video. But with all that said, let me know your comments down in the comment section below. And a big shout out to all my patrons. Without you, I couldn't make videos like this one. And I'll see you in the next one.